Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is Karen Kulenovic, your host, and we are on the Integrated Empath Masterclass series, where we're exploring the many ways that highly influential empaths have used their abilities to forge joyful lives and thriving careers. Our collective purpose is to inspire you to embrace your power to create your own success stories in your personal life and in your business. Today, we have the honor of talking with Summer McStravick about how your empathic self can make you money and not the way you think. Summer McStravick is the creator of Flow Dreaming, which is a technique that empowers you to define and program your future by working with the living energies of our universe. Today, her online flagship program, Me School, attracts students worldwide and forms a vibrant community of conscious creators the world over. You can find hundreds of recorded, downloadable flow dreams, meditations, classes, her books, a blog, her podcast, and much more at Summer's website, flowdreaming.com. Summer is also well known for having created and pioneered HayHouseRadio.com, where she was the director of new media at Hay House Publishing, founded by Louise L. Hay. There, she co-hosted and developed podcasts, CDs, webinars, and radio programs for Dr. Wayne Dyer, Doreen Virtue, Greg Braden, Jerry and Esther Hicks, as well as many other luminaries in the fields of self-help and spirituality. Thank you so much for being with us today, Summer. Welcome.
Hi, Karen. Thank you. I'm glad to be here, too.
Well, let's jump in. We're a group of empaths here, highly sensitive as well. And so I always like to start with a rewind of how sensitivity and your empathic abilities first showed up in your life.
Oh, well, my story is maybe a little more unusual because I was born into a family where that's what we did. I mean, generation after generation of it.
You're so lucky.
I know. I tell people that. And, but that's the funny thing. I always say it's kind of like being born a Catholic. It's just like everybody's Catholic. You're kind of bored of it. The difference between the Catholic and, say, a Baptist or a born again, they're excited. They're like, oh, my God, I found God. I found God. And the Catholics are like, yeah, God, right. Yeah, I've been doing that since I was born. So the same thing is true if you're born into an empathic family or an intuitive family. My mother has always been highly empathic. She has, she has a beautiful length. She's 74 now. She's been doing readings most of her life. My grandmother, took earlier forms of it. So she did palm readings, she did tea leaf readings, she did automatic writing, things that were more popular, coming from the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. My great-grandmother before was into astrology, and we go back at least, I think we calculated about 7 generations. And it's just kind of fun because, I'm the oldest daughter, and my mom is the oldest daughter, and my grandmother is the oldest daughter and the firstborn. So we have this funny little matrilineal legacy going on, and that's just the way I grew up.
How fun was that? I mean, was it just kind of like old hat, like normal to you, or was it a fun experience being surrounded by people in your family who actually were out, they were out with their gifts and sharing them and doing their thing? I mean, how was that for you?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a mixed bag because, on the one hand, if I was, sniffling over a boy that didn't like me, my mom would say, go pull a card on it, and I'm 14. So I learned how to use this huge array of all kinds of methods and, from cards to crystals, all of that. But the downside of it is that not everybody was real accepting. I mean, we're much, much more accepting today of each other's beliefs and ways of being. And, back in I'll give away my age, but back in the 70s, there were kids in my neighborhood whose parents would not allow them into our house because we were, devil worshiping or so I had a lot of social, social pushback, very much the outsider child. And that was difficult. That made me realize I'm unique and different, which is cool, but it's also, how do I deal with it when I'm not one of the herd? And I think that really helped shape me, as an adult because, I think all of us empaths have felt like that. We try to be one of the herd, and we realize we have to fake our way through, which is very easy for many of us because, empaths are at heart kind of chameleons. We can change the color of our skin and our spots to match any situation because we're drawn to do so, because that's what we do. We read energy, and then we try to, match ourselves to it. So it was unusual.
Yes.
It was unusual. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could understand that, and I think, excuse me, having children is one of those things where you start to realize that, oh my goodness, there's all these other people out there in the real world, and how do we raise them to accept themselves and still fit in and be liked and have friends? Were there people that you were able to find in your younger years where they got you, they accepted you?
Yeah. In fact, I actually have some of my closest girlfriends are from 6th grade, 4th grade, 9th grade. So once I find those little gems of people, I tend to stick with them and keep them with me a long, long time. And it was just because we really get each other, and they're empathic as well. And that's another bonding point, that we can talk about life from a very different perspective than most people. We talk about all the physical stuff and our careers and our kids and all of that, but then there's also, why do you think this is happening? What did you read from that situation? And are you trusting your knowing, or are you trying to fit yourself in some kind of box that you think you should be doing? We have those conversations too, which is really fortunate.
Yes, that's so refreshing and so essential to have people like that you can really trust and that really understand who you are from an authentic place, and they don't expect you to be any different, and you're kind of speaking the same language, and that's important as well.
I can see how it would be harder for people, though, who just kind of woke up to their who and what they are later in life, because you put together one set of friends and family, and everybody thinks they know you, and then you feel this really desperate kind of need to keep up appearances, right, to keep being the way that they want and expect you to be. Meanwhile, there's this other part of you that's like, hey, I'm here. What are you going to do with me? Who can we talk to? And then you have to go out and sort of cultivate this whole new area of people and experiences in your life. And, especially if you're self-taught, you didn't, grow up surrounded by this. There's a lot out there that's really confusing and a lot of mixed messages. So, yeah, I can sense how it would be more difficult. But, it doesn't stay that way. And, being an empath is about realizing gifts. It's not about realizing hardships. So you've got to, one, clear away all the difficulty it's made for you in your life, which is really almost always a result of ignorance about who and what you are. And then once you've done that, then it's just about, well, what do my gifts give me? And I think one of the things we're talking about is, well, it can give you prosperity if you wanted to. Do you want that? It's like, yes. And we're friends and, abundance in all kinds of areas.
Right. Now, I mean, that earlier theme in your life that you touched on of not being accepted and kind of being an outsider, how did you begin to shift that as you stepped into your work? Because you've worked with thousands and thousands of people, and I would imagine that there was something within yourself that probably got to be worked with before that, so that you could actually expand into that space where you owned the gifts that you have, and you were able to create and receive abundance for them.
Yeah, well, that's where I get a little funny. You know how there was that old show in the 80s, I think it was Family Ties. It had Michael J. Fox, and he was one conservative in the family. So when you're born into a group of empaths and people who are very open to all of this, the way that you rebel is to say, I'm never going to be a psychic, and I'm never going to do any of this, and I'm going to go to school and to get a degree, and I'm going to go into literature and publishing, and I will never do this. Never, never, never. So I did that. And
being normal.
I want to be normal, damn it. So I in a way, it kind of propelled me into the sciences. It propelled me into examining what is flow, what is interconnectivity, is there a basis? Have there been studies done? Is being intuitive a real thing? Is there anything behind it besides just faith? And I think that was wonderful because, yeah, I did go to college and I went to, got myself all revved up to go into publishing. But meanwhile, I'm researching and having these own gifts bloom in my life, like my awareness of flow dreaming and flow energy. And it kind of ended up bringing me full circle because I discovered this huge scientific base for all that we are and all that we do, which has really come out even more, in the last, 20, 30 years. But back then it was just kind of seeping in, and I was studying lots of physicists. I actually interviewed quite a few prominent physicists of the time, or still today, and asked them these questions like, what do you mean by stickiness and interconnectivity? And what does it mean when, one bit of information connects with another bit of information and then never leaves its understanding or connection to it, even though it's not in physical proximity? And, this was like a gold mine to me of, oh my God, what I am makes sense. There's a practical scientific basis for it, and there's also an intuitive and emotional and psychological basis for it. And that for me was the real key. And, it kind of set me up with permission, like, okay, what I'm doing, I knew it was real, but now I knew it was real in multiple contexts. And nobody could tell me at this point that I was being a kook. It was more like, well, no, you are, because you're only living, half a life. But if you kind of opened up to this, you'd be living on 100% power instead of 50% power. So, meanwhile, I had this other push nudging me, which was I was desperately trying to go into publishing and starting my own magazine and all about literature and writing. And then I ended up in this very interesting serendipitous way being hired at Hay House. And it was almost like I didn't want to be hired. I didn't even know that it was Louise Hay's publishing house that I was living practically next door to, just within a few miles. I sent a little letter to them. They weren't even looking to hire. And I said, I know you're not hiring, but I'm a great graphic designer and writer, and, I can help you with your books and, full publishing angle. And to my astonishment, I never followed up on the letter. I never called. Like I said, wasn't in response to a job opening. But to my astonishment, I got a call back from their art director, and she said, would you come on in? I want to talk to you. And then she had to convince me to work for them. I said, no, I'm just freelance.
Oh, my goodness.
I do not want a job. Yeah, and I remember brokering a deal. I'm like, well, maybe I'll try it for 2 weeks, but I don't think I'm going to be very good as an employee. And, if I like it, I'll stay. And if I don't, can I leave? And she still hired me. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I was stupid, obviously, back in those days. But, it just shows me how much I was trying to veer right when the universe said veer left. Hey, we've got more to teach you, and here's where you're going to get it because you've got something you've got to share. And if you don't do it, all that we've invested in you is going for nothing. And I realized the universe has basically made a bet on me, and I was either going to show up and fulfill my promises, or I was going to avoid them because of my own personal ego. And my ego was, one that didn't want to be hurt and didn't want to be seen as a certain way, and I had to just get over myself and say, I'm going to do the work. And really, I haven't looked back since then, since 2000. It's been full on. I didn't mean for the story to take up so much of our interview, but it's kind of interesting.
I think it's really important for people to know that, no matter how much they may be resisting some of the things in their life, maybe because of the way they've been conditioned or whatever they're going through right now, that in that divine sense, there's always going to be those opportunities that can develop, even when you're saying no. Yeah. Or trying to say no, I love that story.
When you're trying to say no, the universe gets even louder to try to get you to say yes. So as strong as you're saying no, it's as strong as you will have things happen to push you into a yes. It's like you ratchet up the resistance, the universe ratchets up its own direction until you finally, kind of give in. And that's when you get back into that path of ease and flow again, and on that right path. So,
love it. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And it's important for people to hear that because there is no wrong. As you go through your path, you can make it easier for yourself and kind of listen to the signs and create from a space that's aligned. Or you can say no, and it might take a little longer, but you're still going to be guided. So that's the positive aspect of it. Yeah. Okay. So let's transition into money here. When it comes to making money, what knowledge do you think is necessary for empaths to know about creating financial abundance? Because it's different.
Okay, so yeah, we could talk days about this, honestly, Karen. The first thing that an empath has to realize is that being an empath or using your intuitive skills in your life, it's not like committing to being, that old starving artist kind of imagery. And I know lots of artists who are not starving, but it's a what do you call it? It's a common misperception. Oh, you're going to go into art, you're never going to make money. Oh, you're going to be a psychic or an empath, you're never going to make money. I think that kind of stuck old thought in our head makes a lot of us shy away. Like, I don't want to do readings for a living. I'm like, I get you. You don't have to do readings for a living. That's not at all how you have to express your skill set. You can if you want to. But doing readings for a living really means that you just love people. You love solving people's problems. And you love giving them a heads up and perspectives on things that they can't see or have blocked themselves from seeing. Really, that's what it means about you. So a lot of empaths not just do readings, but they go into coaching because that's another natural way that they express those characteristics or traits. But empaths can do so much more. I mean, people like us, think of it like this. Everybody has sensitivity. Everybody has awareness of other people. There's like a field of information that's constantly spewing out of us. In fact, I was teaching a class just yesterday. I did a series called Born Empath for the last 12 weeks. And I said, look, you guys, it's like Charlie Brown and Pigpen, if anybody remembers that really, really old comic. Pigpen has this dust cloud around him all the time. And I say, everybody acts like they can't see his dust clouds when he walks up to them, like nobody's sneezing and running away. It's just Pigpen. There's who he is. But I said, our energy is always spilling out of us and frothing and foaming, tons of information about who we are. Empaths are able to pick up and absorb a greater amount of that information faster and easier than most people, either because they were born with that skill set open or because they've developed that skill set over time. But we're all pouring out information and we're all receiving it. And if you don't think so, I mean, just think of a person that you've met recently at a gathering, and you're like, I really don't like this person. Oh, they annoy me. I don't know if they remind me of somebody, or it's sort of like if you've ever met somebody with a certain name, and you're like, oh, I hate everybody with that name. Over your life.
Yeah.
It's terrible, right? Whatever it is. But it's a natural reaction. You're picking up on that information, and you have no basis for it, but you've taught yourself or soothed yourself into allowing yourself to accept that you're probably right. There's something incompatible about you. You don't even need to know what it is. So an empath can translate this beautiful, I always call it like an extra layer of information. Everybody else gets their eyes, their ears, their nose, their senses. Empaths get all of those plus one, which is that emotional understanding. And so I almost call empathic skill, it's like a heightened emotional sense. I'm reading that person's emotions. I know if they're coming into the room in a dark mood. I know if they're fighting within themselves and unhappy and depressed. I know if they're happy and open and loving and warm. I just know it. And a lot of empaths, especially those of us who've had traumatic childhoods, we accelerated that skill set. Survival childhood, where you had an alcoholic parent in the home, where you had some form of abuse, where you were even just left out over and over again, not picked for the dodgeball game. We accentuated and began developing this skill even more than others because it was the way that we learned to keep ourselves safe and protected, especially when no one else would do it. So we translate this now, and come with me all the way here into adulthood. And to go back to looking at the different fields that an empath can just flourish in, any field where you're relying on your ability to read that additional layer of information, that emotional layer, you can excel in. You can monetize. You can profit from, and you should profit from it, because really you are bringing in and having developed something, a natural, God-given internal skill that you have that other people haven't necessarily developed, as much as an artist or a pro sports player or anybody else. And you should be rewarded for that. So
Absolutely.
Do you mind if I'm going?
Yes, keep going, Summer. Yes, you're on a roll.
Okay. So, for instance, if you're in a position where you have to manage accounts, like you're a project manager or an account manager, how do you monetize your empathic skills? Well, look, this is another job or position where you have to know how things are going. For instance, I am working with an account manager right now for some Instagram ads. And for the last week, my little warning bells have been going off. I don't know if this feels right. I don't think I'm getting what I need. I don't think anyone's paying attention. I have no way of knowing this, but I trust this. So I know that I need to handle this, particular agency in a certain way now because I'm listening and I'm hearing. A project manager is doing the same thing. Something is wrong in my team. Something is broken over here. No one has said anything. They don't want to tell me because, nobody wants to get in trouble, but I can know it and I can feel it and I can take care of this, and I'm going to be a better project manager. And then I'm going to be able to walk into my boss and say, look what I just took care of, and I just saved our company, $10,000 in wasted cash flow, and I'm really good at this. And then this person is now monetizing that skill set. A person who works with the body, a massage therapist, somebody who does essential oils right there, or in the medical field, they are having an intuitive sense about this is where this person feels broken or sluggish. This is where it's not working. This is where the muscles are tight. And I know to go there. Every massage therapist who is intuitively led gives the best massages. And I always tell them,
100%.
Go. Yeah, they're like, what do you want today? I'm like, go where you think I need it. Because I trust their body intelligence, their empathic awareness that's coming through what they're picking up through their fingertips. Dog trainers, I can just go on. One of my clients has this wonderful, it's more than a dog training program. It's boarding. It's just like all kinds. She empathically is aware of what her animals need when they're in distress, when their stomachs are upset. And so instead of being bombarded by all of this information now, she brings it in and she takes action on it. She does the same thing with her staff. She tells me, like, if I have a staff member come in and they're emotionally, upset, I know that they're going to translate that emotion into every client they touch, into every dog that they handle, and I will not allow that in my facility. She says, I send them home. I'm like, really? You send them home? She's like, well, what's the difference between that and a stomachache? I'm like, nothing. You're right.
Yes.
So, these are all ways that kind of go in and make whatever you're doing grow bigger and flourish more. And the flourishing more becomes then the way that it becomes monetized. And then you can talk about, well, how do you get clients, or how do you use it in those conversations? And we can talk about that if you like, but how's it going so far?
We've got, amazing. So I love how you covered all the different ways that people who are in careers or even have their own businesses are, they're that much more at an advantage to serving people in a really complete way, which, it's like, we know this, and, whether you're a teacher or a nurse or a barista at Starbucks, I know my hot chocolate, when it's made by a certain person, is going to taste so good from someone. It was like, it's just so weird, because the same exact drink made by someone else, it's like, it just doesn't taste the same. So all these subtleties really make a difference when it comes to serving people and spreading positivity. But looking at it from the perspective of the person who is the body therapist or the doctor or the dog trainer, and their ability to receive that abundance. They may know that they have these abilities, that people are happy with their services, and yet there can still be those blocks where maybe they're not charging enough, or maybe they don't know what to charge. I find that a lot of times, with my clients, it's like they're in this space of, should I charge that much, or what? So how can empaths be more clear on their worth and actually being able to receive it?
Yeah, so what you're touching on is the Achilles heel of empath. It's a one weak spot that also comes with it. So empaths, we've trained ourselves to be so attuned to other people's needs, other people's moods, other people's sensitivity. Like we've trained ourselves to be that way, which means that we are always in a state of give, perceive, right, understand. And it's a service-oriented personality for most of us. We're the ones who listen on the phone when somebody is crying and upset for way longer than we meant to because, the dinner is now, like burning and the kids are screaming, but we just, we have to give. Because it comes with who we are and what we are. But when the tables are turned and it's time to receive, empaths, we flounder. We're like, well, that's not what I do. I don't know how to do that. My role is to receive other people's energy and reflect it, not to receive and take in for myself. And that's the biggest difference, the biggest area that I see where empaths feel like this just is wrong. And you have to contrast this, and I've been in thousands of people's minds, and I've seen the differences between people in their minds, in their literal energy states. Many people feel like I should receive money, I deserve it, I'm worth it, give it to me. I should have abundance and prosperity, sure. Empaths, on the other hand, they're like, no, that's wrong. That's just not who I am. This feels weird. And training yourself, teaching yourself, just even the awareness of knowing that you have a bias, that receiving makes you feel weird, is the first step in getting through that bias. And it means things that are easy for other people are going to take you perhaps a little extra effort. It means you're going to choke up and get afraid when you tell your first client that you're now charging $100 instead of $80, more even than other people will. Because for one thing, you're already projecting onto that other person what you believe their response is going to be. Regular people don't do that, but you do. And you're like, oh, they're going to judge me, or they're going to leave me, or they're going to feel uncomfortable, or they're going to worry that they can't pay for it. Oh, gosh, I don't want them to feel that way. I don't want them to feel that way. It's going to make them uncomfortable, so it's going to make me uncomfortable. I don't want to go there. So that thing that we do, which is to project our anticipation of other people's feelings that works for us so well, is now the Achilles heel for us. And it holds us back a double step. So what you have to realize is, as an empath, you're always sensing a need, and you're filling it. And you're filling it doubly well. You're filling it with an extra edge that other people aren't necessarily, filling it, like you said, with the hot chocolate. That is a skill that should be rewarded extra. Like I said, it's the difference between a pro player and an amateur, sports player. The pros get paid a little bit more. Why? Because they have that seemingly extra magical ability to, get the ball in the basket or whatever it may be. The pros are able to ask for that, or they have people around them to negotiate, their asking price who can see their actual value, whereas we empaths often fail to see our actual value because we're too obsessed about looking at other people's value and other people's needs. So you have to turn that light into yourself and say, what if I'm as good as everybody else? What are they charging? And now, what if I'm 25% better? What if I'm 30% better? And I'll just take it on faith that I am, in fact, 30% better. So that starts the journey of, okay, I'm going to teach myself how to receive. I'm going to teach myself how to take in that little extra and feel comfortable and not drop immediately into my client's mind about how now they have to give up, buying that pretty sweater that they were going to get on Amazon because they just paid me more, or how they're, right, don't go there. That's not your problem to solve. And empaths are always trying to solve everybody else's problems, including their money problems. It's not your problem to solve. It's your client's problem. That's a different thing. Unless you're a business coach, then you have to solve that problem for them. But, we have to get out of that idea that you have to solve other people's feelings. You don't have to solve them.
Yes, and that's such an important distinction because we, naturally we go out there to the other person's energy, and that projection that you're talking about is very powerful, and it can work in your favor, and then it can work against you. So in the first instance where, they're already anticipating the no, or anticipating the person's hardship if they pay for the services, that's kind of going the other direction. So how can flow dreaming be kind of a helpful tool to bring people into that energetic state, that emotional state where they are more creating that foundation within themselves, or that fertile ground to be able to receive and project something positive?
Yeah, great question. So yes, flow dreaming definitely can help, right? I rely on it. It's my crutch and my stronghold and all of that. So the first thing I realized, of course, is I'm not solving that person's, problem inside themselves about their money situation. I am charging my worth. And a trap that I see a lot of empaths get into is that they will do the same thing over and over again. They will work themselves to the bone. I have friends who are psychics for a living, empaths for a living, and they just do session after session after session after session until they're absolutely burnt out. And I say, why are you doing this? Well, I don't know. I need to serve everybody, and I need to build up my client base, and they come up with all kinds of reasons. And I say, well, look, why don't you charge a bit more, and then you can do fewer sessions? Oh, but then all the people who really needed me wouldn't get me. And well, so you're going to burn yourself out so you can't do the work anymore because you're trying to serve those people who really need you to the point where then nobody gets you? Honey, this doesn't make any sense. Why are you doing this? And oftentimes it's because this empath is trying to prove themselves over and over their own worth. And they don't it's satisfying to have people come in and pay you and leave, and come in and pay you and leave, and charge a low enough amount that you have that steady stream of clients. But it's going to backfire in the end. And you can translate this to any other, job that you may in, where you're in this kind of routine of around and around and around, or even just searching for people. Who's going to pay? Nobody's paying my worth already. How could I possibly charge even more? I don't even have enough people. So the way that I break out of that, and I know a lot of empaths have been taught this, is the first thing you're doing is you're starting to look at your boundaries. And for me, the boundaries are, it's not my job to solve other people's monetary issues unless they're actually paying me to do that. So I have that awareness that I start walking in with. Then the second one is, for me to be able to continue to do this work and excel at it, I need to not work so hard and work so long and overuse the skill to where I won't be able to or want to use it any longer, right? Where you just say, I just want to take a vacation for 8 months and never come back. Okay? So you have to raise your rates or raise your prices at some point when you start getting to that level. Because if you don't, it's all a downhill slide. So when you start raising your prices, yes, you're going to feel what your clients will feel like in response. So this is where now I'm starting to use flow dreaming for creating other kinds of emotional boundaries in me. And these emotional boundaries are things like, I am worthy and worth it. I mean, real basic, deep emotional stuff. These aren't affirmations. Flow dreaming is not affirmation. It's not meditation. It's not self-hypnosis. It is the empath's ideal way of resculpting your own internal energies. Because, we empaths rely on emotion. That's what we feel from people. We pick up how they're feeling. That's our main, sense in many cases. So in order to change yourself, you need to work on your own emotional landscape. That's the way to do it. So flow dreaming is this method where we're able to change our own emotional landscape and to build it up or kind of soothe it down, heal it. We can do all kinds of things to it. We just have to realize what needs to be done. So an empath who can't raise their prices, or an empath who's feeling like I don't have any abundance, let's get into your emotional landscape. Let's see where that need to stay always in a hungry, never fulfilled, never receiving enough state came from. Because it's there. There is an origin for this. And there is an emotional root to it that needs to be popped out and swapped out with something else. And you think it's just going to happen to you at some point in your life. If you go to enough self-help courses, it'll just happen. It won't. You've got to go in and actually do the emotional work to allow it to happen. And I know people are fond of tapping in other ways, and yes, there are ways to get into your emotions. But flow dreaming is a technique where you actually begin feeling other emotional states that life has not yet given you a reason to feel. And you're not waiting for the universe to tell you, you can feel this now. Oh, this happened, so now you can have this. Oh, you have a lot of clients, now you can feel worthy. You can't wait for that to happen because it's a chicken and the egg situation. So you have to turn the tables on life and say, I'm feeling what it's like to be filled with happy clients who pay me a premium, who love to pay me more. I'm filled with clients who wouldn't dream of paying someone less because they would feel like they're getting an inferior product. And they're right. So they want to pay me more. It makes them feel good to pay me more. They feel even more value. I'm more effective because they're more open when they're paying me more. And we've all had that experience, right? We've paid for something that's really nice and luxurious, and we're like, this is a better brand. This is a better quality. And we're open to loving it more right off the get-go. Well, as an empath, you can change your own emotional landscape to where you feel that and you expect that, and then you're walking into the room, go back to Pigpen for a second, and that's what you're exuding. And everyone who picks up on that says, you're the one for me. We now match at that higher price point, at that more abundant way. So I'm sorry, you were going to break in. I thought I heard you.
Yeah. Well, I was doing it throughout the whole thing. But I love the emotional aspect, and I think that that's really powerful for empaths, especially because, oftentimes they're using their emotions to tap into other people's feelings, and it sounds like with flow dreaming, they're using it to create. So using the emotions to actually put themselves in an embodiment of what they want and that reality that's waiting for them, and just creating that experience in their energy before, the time space catches up. Like it will catch up with that energy.
Yes, exactly. And, that's the most important thing. As an empath, if you're not working on your own emotional self, there is no way you're going to be able to support everybody else's emotional self. And you will get burned out. You'll get depressed. You'll just feel just at a loss. And I work with a lot of people who are in that state. And so I teach them, look, to be amazing and to really use the gift, you have to go into your own emotional landscape and begin becoming this person that you are. So let's practice these feelings together. Let's get into flow around it. And flow state, by the way, and that's where flow and flow dreaming comes from. Flow state for me is a bridge between physical and non-physical. And it's a real, like I said, going back to science, it's a real psychological state where you drift out of time, you drift out of awareness of your physical surroundings. It's just like when you're daydreaming. In fact, we use daydreaming as part of the whole technique. But it's where you kind of bridge physical and non-physical together. And it's a sweet spot where you can be incredibly and powerfully, emotionally and energetically productive. So I would tell my empathic clients, look, here are the flow dreams that we're going to use, and here are the ones that you should be practicing right now. These are the ones that are going to give you the most abundance. They're going to set up the most boundaries. They're going to tune you into the fact that this is what you're actually worth, and make you aware every time now you open your mouth and you ask for less, that you're going to get a trigger in you that says, whoa, why did I do that? And then you're going to ask for more because it actually feels better now to ask for more, and it feels worse to ask for less. So you're going to learn how to receive. You're going to learn how to grow your own inner value and worth and be so strong, and be so strong in that value that it actually feels good to be in that state of value. Then when you're in that state of value, it's sort of like what you are is what you attract, right? What you are is what the universe lines up to give you. So the stronger and more abundant you are internally and inside, and this really goes for everyone, not just empaths, but the stronger you are internally and the more clear on what you should be receiving, the more life is going to hustle up to match those people and circumstances to you, which is now really turning things on the head for an empath, because we've been used to going around and trying to match ourselves everybody else's lives. And frankly, most people's lives, they're in a state of, quiet desperation of, I don't have enough, and how am I going to get more, and, good things come and leave, and all kinds of lack thoughts. And that's what we're so used to attuning ourselves to every day with all the people that surround us. So we're in charge. We have to go in and set up a totally different emotional state and grow it to become so strong that we're not hooked in to all these other overflow, lack feeling states that other people are constantly swirling around us with. Does that make sense?
It totally does. You know, I think that shift from everything externally to really gathering and harnessing that energy from within, like that's the first place to start. And I think because a lot of empaths are so, you know, they are so heart-centered and tuned into other people, there is that tendency to just tap into other people and feel so overwhelmed. And it's like, how do I get out of that? It's really focusing in on yourself first. And I know it can seem counterintuitive, but what you're saying is that is the place to create the landscape.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So that's what we work on, you know, with flow dreaming, with people who are needing to increase their abundance, and they know that they're empathic and deeply in touch. And where do I go from here? Because all the other stuff I've been trying hasn't worked. And that's usually when people end up, you know, coming to flow dreaming, because they're like, I've tried all these other things. I've taken business coaching. I've done this. I've done that. You know, and I'm still not getting there. And I'm like, well, you need to get into the real heart of it. And the heart of it isn't external knowledge. It's reframing you from the inside out. Then all the external knowledge you're picking up, you can actually put into effect. So come do this inside stuff, get that squared away, and then pile yourself up with all the trainings and all the teachings you need, because you're going to kick ass with them at that point. So, that's it. And that's why you would use programming. So I welcome anybody. Come learn.
Yes. And I know you have a free gift that will kind of give people an introduction to flow dreaming as you've shared it. Yes. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So I encourage anybody like who's resonated to anything I've said. One, you can just email me. I'm at summer@flowdreaming.com. And yes, that's my real email. And yes, those emails do go to me. The other thing is go to the website, flowdreaming.com. And there is something called a free kit there I usually have a tab somewhere on my website, free goodies, something like that. And it's a pretty fleshed out, you know, extensive kit. It's several audios that one is a tutorial, it teaches you. One is a practice where I bring you into flow state, and you get an experience of it, a taste of it. And then it comes with, you know, like a quick start guide and a workbook, lots of stuff. So I teach this technique for free. I think everybody should have it and use it. And then to go on from there, that's when you can kind of browse through the library of flow dreams that I have that I've already pre-recorded for you, kind of makes it easier. Choose some that you like, or even take the next step from there, which would be to ask me about Me School or my shorter course, Born Empath. And both of those are, you know, made to really, really change you, really make you something else. And, and that will begin your journey.
Awesome. Wow, that's so generous, Summer. And, you know, Summer's got a whole library of flow dreams, right? And you've got your podcast as well.
150, and I forgot to mention my podcast. Oh, gosh, go listen. It's on iTunes, Google Play. I have over 600 episodes, and I started doing that show at the same time that Wayne Dyer and I were co-hosting. So I was doing 2 shows a week. Wayne and I were on, and then I was doing flow dreaming, which is where I was in the very beginning teaching people like what this is and how to do it. So it's been going on continuously now for 14 years, I believe.
It's been a long time, because I remember listening to your shows on Hay House Radio.
Oh,
and yes. I remember your cheerful voice, you know, and doing your flow dreams. So, I mean, they're amazing, and that really supported me through, you know, my kind of transitioning and stepping into honoring my sensitivity and just using my energy differently. So I highly encourage you all to go get this, flowdreaming.com/free kit. And you can find more resources from Summer. And, you know, Summer, I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing your heart and your energy with us. It's been amazing.
Oh, well, thank you, Karen. It's been a pleasure. I apologize for taking over the conversation there at the end, but once you get me going on something I'm passionate about, I can't shut up. So,
well, this is all about yeah, this is all about teaching and sharing your wisdom. So this was an opportunity for people to hear about you and, you know, what you can share with them and give them to move forward in a more empowered way. And so I know that there's something, perhaps many things that our audience will walk away with today. And, you know, I always like to acknowledge our audience for showing up. So thank you all for setting aside this time and connecting with us today. We support you in your journey and let us know how we can help. Thank you again for being here, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.